Good morning. So today we're going to go over setup and use of our national shear. So first I'll start out with some safety. This is a fairly easy machine to use. There's only a couple safety factors that go along with it. This right here is a clamp, and it's going to clamp down and pinch your material. So you want to make sure you don't have your fingers underneath that when it comes down to clamp, it'll smash you flat. The next thing, on the back side of the machine here, you also don't want to be putting your fingers inside underneath here because it's basically like a couple big pairs of scissors that come down and cut your material. And you don't want to have your fingers in there when that cuts. The last thing on the back side of the machine here is when it does cut, don't grab your material. Just let it fall. It'll fall on the ground. You don't want to potentially pinch your finger or end up cutting a finger off on this machine. You're also going to never walk away from the machine while the machine is running. I know this is pretty quiet while it runs, so it's easy to forget about, but you have to shut it off before you leave. And also, this isn't a safety thing, but it's a machine use item. So this has a safety built into it. And what it's going to do is it's going to drop that clamp after this machine's been sitting for, I think if it sits for about an hour, that's when the clamp starts to drop. So what you will have to do to get that clamp to come back up is before you use the machine, or before you're ready to slide your material into the machine, turn it on, go ahead and actuate it up and down, and that'll bring the clamp up. You also need to be wearing safety glasses at all times, like all the machines in the shop. While you are out in the shop working, you have to keep those safety glasses on. Earplugs aren't as big of a deal using this. As you guys can tell, it's fairly quiet, and it isn't going to make a lot of noise. So that's the only couple safety factors that go along with it. The next thing is material thickness. How thick can this thing cut? If you look on the front of the machine right here, it says it's got a 12 gauge maximum. So what we're going to do to identify that is we're going to come to the back of the machine here. There's a little shelf, and we're going to find this. And what this allows you to do is check the gauge of your material. So like this material that I'm cutting today, I'm just going to take this gauge checker and slide it on there, and it looks like it's, what is that, 24 gauge, 21, 20, somewhere in there. So it's definitely thinner than 12 gauge. This is 12 gauge right here, and it's really loose on there. So this material we can definitely cut with the shear. Next, we'll go over the parts of the machine. So like I said earlier, we have a clamp right here. We have the on-off switch right here. Down on the ground, there is a pedal to actuate the machine up and down. And on this pedal, you can see I can't push the pedal right now until I lift up this flap. And then that allows the operator to push the actuation switch down. So make sure to pick that up with your toe before you push it down. On the back side of the machine here, there is a backstop, an adjustable backstop, and I'll show you a little bit more on that and how to use that later. So there's 3 different ways we can shear our material to the lengths that we want. So the first way is right here, there's a scale, and we can say, okay, we want our pieces to be 9 inches long. So I'm going to line the edge of my material up with that 9 inch, and then I can shear it. The second way is you can use a tape measure and measure out the length you want to cut and put 2 little arrowhead marks on it like that. I prefer using an arrowhead rather than just a straight line, because I can see exactly where I want to be. With a straight line, sometimes it's squiggly. Sometimes you have a little bit of a width of a line. You're not sure where you're cut to on there. And I also like to use a scribe when I mark out these. I just used a Sharpie now so you guys could see it. Then you'll go ahead and slide it into the shear. And what you'll be able to see is on the inside of the machine here, attached to this green beam, there's a blade. And you're going to align those marks with that blade. And once you're happy with it, go ahead and shear it down. One thing I often hear that students are doing on this machine is they shear through their material and then they keep going down. Once you're through your material, you can stop. So that'll sound something like this. You don't have to keep going down, like I said, after it's cut through the material. The third way you can cut your material is using this backstop right here. So to use that, you're just going to loosen up these black knobs. There's little black knobs on the outside here. Loosen those up, and you can slide this backstop to whatever material distance that you're wanting. And that's measured off the front of these, not the back. So the front, and there's a scale on here, so you can set it to whatever you want. So, like if I wanted my pieces to be 7 inches, I'm going to slide it to exactly 7 inches and exactly 7 inches. The only issue you'll run into with the backstop is if you have one of these set slightly off and you're cutting a bunch of parts, you'll end up with an angled piece. The last item you need to pay attention to is if you're cutting really super thin material, sometimes the right side of the machine, that's the side that gets used a lot, will bend the material rather than shear it. What you can do is come out to maybe the center or the right of the machine where it's not used as much, and that will give you a lot nicer cut quality.